Hello the internet, my name's Laura and welcome back to my channel. And today, we are having lunch. Okay, so that's not actually true. These are my, all my propagation boxes. Those of you who have been around before know that I keep my propagations in old carry-out containers because they're like perfect for it. They are plastic and most of them are not recyclable. But they also have clear lids. It allows the light to come in, and then they are covered, which allows for the dome. Some of them even have a little little holes in there that allow the steam to escape from, you know, whatever food you've got in there, that allows a little bit of air circulation. Anyway, I wanted to start this video off by checking out all of my propagations that I have, because I haven't really looked at a lot of them in a while, and I figured I might as well do it on camera. So I'm not sure how this angle is going to work. I've been trying to figure out a way to get my table and my me, and I haven't quite figured out the right angle yet. I don't have a an actual tripod, because this is what a tripod looks like. Whatever. I don't have an actual tripod. So I have to kind of play around with tables and chairs and stuff that I have to put my little guy on. But anyway, so this is how we're gonna go for now, and if I get annoyed with it partway through the video, it might change. We don't know. Okay, so this is, I don't even remember what's in here. Let's open this up and see what's in here. It's all covered in condensation on the top. Ah, yes, okay. So these are my, a bunch of primulina cuttings that I took when I was replanting my primulinas. They've got little bitty roots growing on there. I went to tug on him to see if he came out, and he did. I mean, just real easy. So yeah, these guys are apparently just starting to throw some roots out, which is great. Though there also seems to be a tiny little, you're not gonna be able to see it from here. There's a tiny little begonia in there. So I'm wondering if obviously I reused this sphagnum moss. I'm wondering if there was like a little bit of a begonia piece in here that has now sprouted a begonia. I can't tell what type it is. It's just very clearly not a primulina leaf. It is a begonia leaf. But anyway, so these guys, I don't even remember how long these have been in here, because I obviously didn't write down on this one. Oh, that's not shooting out a little. That's not putting out any roots. The frosted jades and the summer songs are, but pretty sure those are summer songs. Yeah, there is no other leaf that looks like that, so that's the summer song. But anyway, so those guys are working it out. Pretty awesome. I figure I'm just going to kind of shuffle all this around. These are my watermelon peperomias. They went in there on the 24th of January. So we're now over a month out, I guess. How are we doing? All right, we have got some significant root growth on here. But no real, like, there's no leaf growth yet. I don't know how long these are going to take. So there we go. Okay, I can kind of show you guys if I like throw them all out there. They've got little roots on them, but that's it. There's not much growth besides that. That's fine. The leaves look healthy, and that's the big deal. Okay, so what are you? February 13th. Oh, this. So my primulina frosted jade, I had to pull the plant apart. Oh man, it has got some mealies, but that's why I put it in here by itself. But I put it in here because I had to pull the plant apart. It didn't really have much of a root system. I know we're killing mealies as we go. And so I put it in here in, you know, obviously a humid environment with the attempt to, with the hopes that it would grow a root system on it, on all the little bits that had kind of broken off without a root system. So, see how that's doing. The plant is still alive. Not seeing, oh, maybe that's a little bit of root growth there. Not sure if you're even going to be able to see it. Oh, okay, this one's doing much better in the root department, so this one's doing good. This one, of course, has more mealies on it than the other one, so that's great. Oh, that leaf is dead, though. I can come off there. Don't need to keep any dead leaves. Okay, so looks like those guys are doing all right. Like I said, they're in here, separated from everything else. So if they, you know, the mealies continue to survive for a while, it's not going to do me much damage. What do we got here? Oh, this is exciting. I haven't looked at this in a while, which was part of the reason for this video. These are my Griffin begonia cuttings. And they have very definitely started to both root and put out new leaves. Some of them have. Some, it looks like some in here, like I cut off the old leaves. The old leaves. But it looks like I didn't get all the bits of it, and so the dead bits are actually molding a little bit. It doesn't look like it's harmed the plant any, but that's what I'm doing now, is I'm gonna pull off these old bits that are kind of rotting a little bit. So that the plant itself, you don't want to root from there. No, you want to root there. There you go. Oh, but that's so exciting. Okay, so see, I have finally figured out about the Griffin begonia and actually getting that. Okay, there. Over there. Getting the Griffin begonia and actually propagating it. Yep, it looks like all 6 of them have got, yeah, I really just don't like this. I can't show you guys anything very easily because the camera's like all the way over there. All 6 of them have roots growing out of them, and let's see, 2 of them very obviously have leaf growth. 3 of them, 4 of them? 4 of them have kind of leaf growth that doesn't quite look like growth yet. And this guy, looks like he has mealies and barely putting out some roots, and the leaf is kind of, dying. So I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not, but we're going to spray for mealies in there. I think that was just a leaf that I must have just stuck in there because there was space. But anyway, okay, so that's awesome. My Griffin begonia cuttings are doing well. Oh, that's so great. That's so great. I really love that. What's in this little guy? Okay, so we've got what looks like one of my Pearl Sky begonia cuttings. This looks like a Black Fancy. That really looks like a Black Fancy cutting. It's got some roots on it, but it's not doing anything. It's just rooting. And that could be, I mean, there's another begonia cutting in here too, but it could be the pearl sky, but I'm not positive. All of them are really, I mean, that one doesn't even have leaves on it. All of them are pretty, not really big enough to do much of anything. But, you know, they're alive and well, so. Okay, what's this guy? Oh, something in here is just a molded pile. Okay, so we're gonna pull out the molded pile and toss it. Okay. Yep, sometimes you put leaves in here and you just lose them and they just go and, you know, rot, and you might as well remove them because, like, the mold won't necessarily harm a healthy plant, but if a plant is like damaged at all or whatever, you could, you know, it could damage. Okay, so what do we got here? All right, you're rotting too, so you're gone. I think that's a taconite, so this one doesn't have much. It's got what looks like a begonia taconite, and then part of my watermelon begonia that I put in here, and it's rooted. It's not really doing, it's got the little bumps that are the beginnings of it putting out some leaves. So I'm gonna leave that guy in there as well. Oh, I put that back on wrong. Not that it really matters, but there's little sections on these big containers. Okay, and then this, I looked at these the other day, and I was really kind of sad to see. These are my Pingicula seeds that I got. And from what I can tell, like, you're probably not going to be able to see it. I could show it to you, but I see little bits of mold all in here. And I'm thinking that those are the seeds, that the seeds kind of molded. Which makes me really sad. I think it just means that that the soil was too wet. But I'm not seeing any signs of actual life on either of these. I'm just seeing little mold buckets, little mold things. So I'm not going to throw them away quite yet, just because I don't know there's any chance. But I'm not really holding out that much hope, which is kind of a shame. Okay, so the other thing that I was going to do today is that I have all of these maculata wightiis props, cuttings, that have been rooting in water for months and months and months. And they're not, I mean, I keep having problems with, this one's actually in soil. I keep having problems with crisping. I just don't think that I'm very good at taking care of this particular plant. But I know that there are people who do want it. And so I've decided, instead of completely getting fed up and just throwing all these out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pot them up and, you know, see if they survive the transition into soil, and then sell some of them and give some of them away, because, like, at this point, it's not doing me any good to have them, and maybe somebody else will be able to take care of them better than I can. That's right, I remember when they won't sit still, they got the little thing. So that's what I'm going to do. And I figured that I would do this and chat a little bit with you guys. And we'll see what we end up with. Yeah, I mean, this one still had, this plant definitely ended up being more of a difficulty for me than I thought it was going to. It really is lovely, though. It's just kind of a shame that I am apparently no good at taking care of it. Look, those are the best looking leaves on this plant. I'm going to leave them right there just so that you can, like, yeah. Okay, so all of these have pretty decent roots on them. I know, right? Okay, I have some of my soil down here. And then a lot of these ended up being like really long, like that's a really long stem before we get to any, oh my gosh. Anyway, it's gonna be fine. This is gonna be fine. We're just gonna stick the roots, gonna wrap the roots around like that. And we're gonna stick the roots down in there. Put soil in it. Okay, so basically what I wanted to do was talk to you guys about the video that I put out, the one on dealing with depression, because I got a lot of responses to that, and they were basically what I was expecting. Lots of people being supportive, being wonderful, a number of people being like, oh my gosh, that's me too, I have trouble with depression, especially this time of year, like all that kind of stuff, right? And you may have noticed that I didn't actually respond to any of the comments. Partially because I was kind of in a place where I didn't I'm not sure. I think part of it was that I didn't feel like I could respond truthfully at that point, because, like, first off, you know what, I'm going to start with this. First off, I'm extremely grateful for all your comments and for you guys talking to me and telling me about your own struggles and how much this channel means to you. And, you know, those of you who like, we chat on occasion, like, you know, telling me that if I ever needed to talk, you know, that you would be there, and, like, I appreciate all of that so much. And so none of what comes after this is in any way meant to discourage that. Oh, that's been in the water for way too long and just kind of rotted. The problem that I've found, and again, this doesn't have to do with any of you guys in particular. The problem that I've found is that when I've come out about depression before, because this is not the first time that I have talked about my depression. It's just the first time that I've really talked about my depression on this channel. Like, the responses that I get are almost always the same. You know, people who have depression, people who want to support me in my depression. And so, for the first time, like, I stopped to think about the responses that I was getting and how they were kind of exactly what I was expecting to get. And again, like, I'm not, what it means to me, what I've taken away from this is that it's our natural response to how depression is in society, right? Like, there are some people who are jerks, obviously. But whenever you bring up depression, whenever anybody's brave enough to bring up depression, at least in my experience, it's almost always the same, supportive thing, like, you can come talk to me, or I go through the same thing. And what it's kind of made me think is that we're kind of stuck in a loop here. Like, I say, oh, I'm dealing with depression, and everybody else goes, yeah, me too. And then nothing changes, right? Because here's the thing, like, as much as I appreciate people who said to me, oh, if you ever need to talk, I'm here, right? Like, because I appreciate that, because, like, that is someone saying, hey, I want to help you. And that's great, because, like, it's much better than, somebody being like, well, maybe you should just try harder, or, whatever, like that. But at the same time, there's no good way for me to come to somebody that I'm not super familiar with. Like, even a person that I'm friends with but not super familiar with, and talk to them about depression. Because the thing that I've come to find about depression, I'm gonna have to water all these, we'll do that later, is that there's this weird balance. Well, shoot. Oh, no, that leaf was not healthy. Okay. There's this weird balance between talking about it enough and not talking about it enough. Like in society where we just kind of don't talk about it because, it makes people uncomfortable. And the point at which we talk about it so much that we're getting drugged down by it, right? And obviously all of this just comes from my own experience, right? Like, you guys could have completely different experiences with this. This might not make any sense to you at all. Truthfully, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say here, but I'm talking, and so we're going to see where this goes. Yay, that bowl is finally empty. That's not actually dirty water. It has a little bit of fertilizer in it. If you are, keeping plants in water for a really long time to root, you do actually want to add a little bit of fertilizer every now and then if you can, because water is not giving your plant any fertilizer. So just let it. But the problem I find is that it's not the problem I find. What am I even trying to say? What am I trying to say? You guys don't know what I'm trying to say. We need to stop treating depression like it's a thing we need to discuss. That's really not really what I want to say. Different people are in different places with their depression, right? Like I told you guys, I've had depression for a while, and I've done a lot of work toward dealing with it in my life. But I've now gotten to the point where I've now gotten to the point where I don't necessarily need anybody to acknowledge that I have depression, right? The people in my life now know that I have depression. A lot of them have been with me through a lot of the... That is just really long. They've been with me through a lot of it. And so I've gotten to the point now where like I said, I don't necessarily want to talk about it. Okay, so I'll tell you guys a story. I very recently, I work at a barn. I've been at this job for, oh wow, that's a really big one. I've been at this job for over 10 years now. So I know the people that I work with there pretty well. You know, like we're pretty good friends. And they know about my depression. And so I am at the point now where I can walk into work in the morning and go, I'm depressed today. And it will always go one of two ways. They'll either say, okay, and then we go back about our business. Or they'll say, is there anything I can do to help? To which I will respond truthfully to whether or not there's anything they can do to help. Most of the time, there is not anything that they can do to help, right? Most of the time, it's just depression, I'm feeling bad about something, I'm overreacting to something, and most of the time, just having them acknowledge the fact that I'm depressed and then going on about their day is literally the best thing that they can do. Okay, we are going to... I knew some of these were going to be too tall. I think, you know what? I think I've kind of decided what I wanted to say. Like, I think I'm starting to figure out what it is I'm trying to say. So we have a way that we respond that a rational person, you know, somebody who actually cares about the feelings of others, will respond to depression is, you know, either, oh, I am also depressed, or, you know, you can come talk to me anytime, let me help. Like, that's the conversation right now about depression, right? What I think I want to bring to y'all's attention is, I don't use that word very much on this channel. To bring to y'all's attention is that, there is a further step to depression and dealing with depression and how you interact with people when you have depression and they don't, or they have depression but you are the depressed one at that moment, right? So many roots, plant porn. Okay, that's actually not a bad, gonna be my picture for the video. Because here's the thing. People who have depression and people who don't have depression, none of us know how to deal with having depression or dealing with somebody who has depression. As a society, we have not trained each other or been trained to deal with people with depression. right? We're still in a place of, oh, I have depression. Oh, you poor thing. What can I do, or what can I do for you? Or how can I make it better? Or, oh, what's wrong? Or what's wrong is that I'm depressed. What's wrong is that I have a chemical imbalance in my brain that makes me upset about things, wears my body down, when there's not actually anything really wrong. Like, I'm going through the exact same thing that you are, only my body is responding to it worse. That's basically what depression is. But, I dropped that. Okay. Beautiful. I think the problem is that we're still subconsciously in a place where we're treating depression like there's something wrong. Or that there's something to fix. Like subconsciously. Because that's just how society has been, you know. Oh, if you're sad, then there's something that we need to fix. Right? I'm slowly surrounding myself with begonias. It's wonderful. I love it. I'll move this out of the way because it's ugly. And so what the conversation needs to turn into is more like the example that I shared with you with me and my coworker. You know, I go in and I say, I'm depressed today. And my coworker says, okay. Because they need to know that I'm in a depressed state, or else they might think that something is wrong, right? Like they might think that I'm mad at them, or that something is going wrong, or there's something that needs to be fixed, because, you know, they're the manager, right? And it's their job to fix things that are wrong. But by saying, I'm depressed today, I'm saying, here is some information for you so that you know how to respond to me. And the, is there anything I can do, is basically it's there in case you need it. But like I said, in a lot of cases, the answer to that is no. The problem is that you have to train people to this. I went on a vacation with my mother, and I love my mother. She's wonderful. She very possibly could be watching this video. Like, I love my mother. And I was feeling rather depressed because I was homesick. And so, you know, I told her, look, I'm just depressed right now. And then she was like, oh, well, you know, let me do this for you. Let me do that for you. Oh, you know, will this make you feel better? Will that make you feel better? And she was trying to take care of me because she's a wonderful mother and she cares about me. But basically all it did was, oh, those leaves are kind of dying. Basically all it did was draw attention to the fact that I was depressed. And so then I felt bad about being depressed because then it was affecting her. Whereas if it had been the type of thing, and I didn't realize it at the time because I could have trained her in that moment and been like, really all I need you to do is just acknowledge that I am depressed, and then we are going to continue on. Right? And that's what you kind of want to do with the people in your life. Assuming that you are already getting help for your depression, if you're like suffering it alone, you know, if you're suffering it alone, that's completely different. But assuming that you already are, you know, diagnosed or already on medication, you're already dealing with it, You want to be able to train the people in your life so that you can go to them and say, I'm depressed today. And their response will be, okay. Or, okay, is there anything I can do to help? And then you can tell them one way or another. Because I feel like when you say you're depressed, and then people respond like you're depressed, all that does is make you feel depressed, right? Like if somebody's treating you with, the careful gloves, like they're being careful around you and making sure they don't say anything wrong or anything like that, right? Like that then makes you feel like there's something wrong. So really what you want to be able to train the people in your life to do is know that it's okay that you're depressed and that they don't need to do anything for you, unless they do. Like you need to train the people in your life. And this is not everybody. These are like people that are very close to you. You train these people that if you really need help, that you will come to them. And otherwise, they are to just accept the fact that you are depressed today. And I have no idea if this made sense at all, but like, it's kind of like, I'm to the point now where I want our response to depression to evolve some. Like, I mean, not everybody, of course, is to the point where they can say, oh, I'm depressed, and, people won't say, well, go out and exercise, obviously. But for the people who are at that point, I feel like this is the next step beyond. And I'm just like, truthfully, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just playing around with this. I don't want to say playing around. I'm just experimenting with this because this is something that's working in my own life, right? Where I can go up to my friends and coworkers and be like, I'm depressed today, and it doesn't have to be a thing. And like, that's what, one of the things that I never know where to start stories. I listen to this writing podcast because I'm a writer and I listen to writing podcasts. And they had an episode one time where one of the hosts had their brother on, and their brother had self-harm issues. And he knew that he had self-harm issues. He had gotten help for his self-harm issues, therapists, and he wanted to talk about the self-harm issues. And there's this part of society that would go, oh my gosh, we can't talk about self-harm, or, oh my gosh, self-harm is such a serious topic. And he was friends with all the people in the podcast. And so he started talking about how he would want to hurt himself and how he would do other things in order to distract himself from the self-harm, and then some of the things that he would do. And the other people on the podcast started making jokes. And they addressed it as, look, we're all friends, and we know that this is a thing. And if we treat it like it's something to be held in revere, where we have to be careful around it, like this guy is going to break, then we are creating that situation for this person, where suddenly they feel like they're going to break because we're treating them like they're going to break. Does that make sense? And that really hit me hard, because I suddenly realized that we did that. And they talked about other mental illnesses too, one of which being depression, because it comes up a lot in writers. We're, a moody group. and it just hit me how we do that about depression too, or we do that about anxiety, or we do that about substance abuse, addiction, right? Where we either if we're not treating it as something that's just bad or wrong, or you need to power through it, we're treating it like something where we need to be holding people and treating them gently because they might break. And that's not the case at all. People with depression and people with anxiety are like the strongest people that you will ever meet, because we have to deal with those mental issues and then still function. Whereas people who don't have mental issues can just go on their merry way and just do things. Like, I don't even understand what it must be like to not deal with depression. Like, how easy must their lives be? Now, I'm sure they have other things, right? But like, if you have anxiety or depression or any number of mental afflictions, you are a superstar because you deal with that. You deal with the prejudice of society and you keep going. And that's why I want to move away from this place where people feel like they need to treat us carefully when we have depression. Again, I would like to reiterate, all of you guys who reached out to me, I'm not trying to chastise you in any way. I'm not saying that, oh, you shouldn't have done that, or you should feel bad, or whatever, right? Because this is just our trained response. You guys are good people, and you saw me suffering, and you wanted to help, and you wanted to relate to me, and you wanted to, like, all those things. All those things are great. But at the same time, I want us to look at that. It's not like I want us to stop supporting each other. If you find out of other people with depression, we want to support each other, but at the same time, we shouldn't treat people with depression or anxiety or any of those things like they're going to break, because they're not. Like, we can get completely fed up, but for the most part, we can do this, right? Like, I have my depressed days and then I come out the other side. I have anxiety attacks and I come out the other side and I go and I function, right? Like, sometimes I have help, sometimes I need help, and that's, then I get help. But like, again, I've lost track of really what I'm trying to say. Like, we want to be able to support people with depression without treating them like they're going to break. And that really kind of goes back to if someone tells you that they have depression, your friend tells you that you have depression, you want the response to be, okay, and is there anything I can do? And if not, you just go on, right? You just go on and you treat that person like they are a human person, because they are, and you just continue on with your life. And then you get to the point where that person knows that they can trust you. Hopefully you have a friendship with this person already before you're training them to do this, but then they know that you will come to them when you need help. And that's the part that you have to train yourself for. You need to know yourself well enough that you know when you can do it yourself and when you can't. Because there are times when I can't. There are times when I just need to break down and I need to go. I drink grape soda when I'm really depressed. When I need to go and get my grape soda and just curl up under my desk and just be safe, right? And if it gets any worse than that, then I know that I have to go to my husband or I have to call my sister. And I say, I'm depressed right now and I need to have interaction. And so my husband will just talk to me about whatever, or my sister will just talk to me about whatever. Because there's those times that I need it. But I know myself well enough that I can go and that I can request that help. And not everybody knows that, right? Because there's this general stigma of, if you have depression, you need to deal with it yourself. And sometimes you can. Sometimes you can just put your head down and keep going, right? And sometimes you will. But I want to get to the point where you start reaching out to the people around you, you know, close friends, family that you trust, and be able to say to them, I need help right now, or I just need you to acknowledge that I'm depressed today, so that you get to the point where depression is no longer depression is no longer this huge thing, right? It just is, right? Like, I have no idea if anything that I said makes sense. Like I said, this is still something that I'm trying to kind of figure out how I feel about in my own life. And then I sat down and started taping myself. I'd be curious to know what you guys think of what I said, or what it occurs to you I said. I'm obviously going to go back up and watch this and edit this. And maybe it will become more clear to me after I've heard what I said. I'm a much better writer and writing out my thoughts than I am speaking my thoughts. You'll be able to tell. But I guess what I really want to leave you guys with is, just because you're depressed or anxious or whatever, you know, non-typical thing that you might have going on with you, does not mean that you need to be treated with kid gloves, right? Like, you are a strong person because you've been dealing with this for however long you've been alive, and you're still alive, right? And I want us to move on to the next step, where we start taking away some of the stigma, maybe it is, right? Like, we want to be able to change people's minds who don't know that this is not a thing that this is not that we're not broken because of this, right? It is just a thing that is there. And part of that is by, you know, you've actually got to go out and do a little bit of legwork, right? Like, my husband and I worked through, we both actually have depression. My husband and I both have depression, and we've been married for over 10 years now. And in the past year or two, time has no meaning anymore. It's probably been longer than that, maybe 3 years. We've gotten to the point where we can say to each other, I'm depressed, and there's no immediate response of, I need to fix it, right? Because, you know, if these people are your friends, they want to help you and protect you, right? Like, they want to. And so you need to be able to say to them with clarity, this is what I need and this is what I don't need. And if they care about you, they will listen to that and they will try and do better. It doesn't mean that they're going to, you know, automatically understand what it is that you're trying to say. And sometimes when you're in the depth of a depressive episode or an anxiety attack, you're not really going to be able to explain it. And that's why you want to be able to train them at times when you're feeling good. Like, feeling pretty good right now, I'm training you guys. And at the same time, again, I'm saying, it's not that I don't appreciate the support. You know, like, if this said something to you, if this means something to you, go ahead and throw it in the comments. If you want to tell me about your own experiences or, you know, what this looks like in your life, let's do it. And if you want to, you know, show that you're there for me or whatever like that, like, that's great. Because that kindness is really what we need. But I also want people to be able to for me to be able to say, I'm depressed. And have people be like, okay. And not make it a huge thing. Like, I don't know if that made any more sense than what I was trying to say before. All right, editing Laura. Hopefully, this will be not super horrible and completely confusing. If it is, we can always just not publish it. But anyway, seriously, just whatever you guys want to say about this, I would love to hear your feedback. Because like I said, I'm still trying to figure out how I want to deal with depression and how I want to present depression to the people that I interact with, right? And so I want to understand what other people think about these thoughts that I have had. People with depression, people without depression. I just want to understand how other people think of depression and how other people think of dealing with people with depression, or how other people who have depression think about dealing with other people. Because, you know, truthfully, this is something that is near and dear to me, because it's something that I struggle with, and it's something that I want to, if at all possible, help improve in the world. Even if it's only my little group of you guys on my YouTube and the couple of people who read my books, because I've got a couple of little fans over there, not very many, but, you know, like, I don't have a big reach, but I want to use that reach for whatever I can, for what positive change I can put out there. Because I'm really lucky to have you guys watching my channel for whatever reason that you've stuck around this long. You know, I enjoy putting out these videos. You guys enjoy watching these videos. It's great. It's a mutually beneficial, you know, experience here, and I want to help improve people's lives, both with plants and a little bit with the mentality of non-neurotypical stuff, because it's important. It just is important. I don't want anybody to... The thing that makes me the saddest in this world is people who can't love themselves. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't love themselves, that cannot honestly look at themselves in the mirror and really love themselves, and like it breaks my heart. And at the same time, it took me many years to get to the point where I could even start loving myself. Like, I know what it's like, right? But now that I do love myself, despite my foibles and my flaws and, you know, everything, right? You know, it sounds silly, but I want to help you guys love yourselves. Even if just a little bit. And that's what all of this is about, in conclusion. Anyway, here's a plant. Yeah. humor to lighten the mood. Yeah. So anyway, I had no idea what this video was going to be when I started, and that's what it ended up being. I hope you guys enjoyed my potting. I hope you guys enjoyed my talking. And seriously, go ahead and throw whatever you want in the comments. And if you like this video, go ahead and like this video. If you'd like to see more of my wonderful plants, go ahead and subscribe. And thank you very much for, again, sitting through this whole video, because I'm looking at the timer up at the top and I've been talking for far longer than I thought I was going to. I always say that. It's becoming a habit for me to just start talking and suddenly it's like, you know, an hour later. And I will absolutely see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.